Hey guys, Thyworm here, with some thoughts on the item faction system in last Epoch. After reading the post, watching the trailer and watching some other content creators react to it all, I'm a bit conflicted about these systems. SSF looks simply incredible and trade does not. This video won't go much into the actual systems, but takes more of a meta view, analyzing the game modes against each other and against trade in other ARPGs. I'll give you a crash course of 3 sentences, however, on these systems. At the end of the campaign, you unlock both factions and you pick one. You grind reputation, allowing you to make use of more rank perks. For example, rank 2 of trade, the Merchant's Guild, lets you trade set items, and you also gather favor, which is the currency you spend on each faction system. So each trade costs X amount of favor. That is the basics. That means the strength of the faction is determined by its ranks and by the faction systems. The ranks you will grind over time, and if you play enough you'll get those no problem, I don't think. Especially in the scope of a cycle which will last around 3 to 4 months, you can expect to reach max rank of a faction, especially because the rank is account bound and thus shared across characters. Rank 10 should be achievable for most players, except for the most casual ones. So let's start with trade, the Merchant's Guild. Trade is mostly defined by its limitations rather than its perks, because the perks are that you can trade and the rest is restrictions. It seems the devs put in a lot of effort in the UI, it looks great. It also seems, however, the devs don't really want you to trade or only from time to time, because it's super restrictive, I would say. Why? Well, for starters, you need to grind reputation to be able to trade most items. A bit of a hurdle, but probably fine. Then you can trade items only once, which is an attempt to avoid item flipping, but the collateral damage of this limitation is that all items are worthless after a trade has been made. I don't think that's a good thing, and the disadvantage of not being able to trade items again after they've been traded is in my opinion worse than the disadvantage of having a few item flippers around, especially because the devs added another limitation that prevents item flipping called favor, which may be sufficient all by itself. You need favor to trade. Depending on the cost and how fast you earn favor by killing monsters, this is more or less a problem. But one thing is for sure, you cannot trade to your heart's content because you need favor to do so. It seems that rarer items cost more favor to trade, making the issue worse. In short, there is a limit to how often you can trade, what items you can trade, and you can trade an item only once. As a result, there will be a limit to how many people will enjoy this game mode. So taking into account, it begs that question, which type of player will enjoy trade? Well, not the item flipper or the pure traders, because you simply cannot do this in last Epoch. And also those that simply enjoy trading quite a bit might find themselves hampered by either the cost of favor or the ranks required, depending on how it's implemented. Not the crafters either, because you can't buy a base, craft on it and resell it, because you can't resell items. As a consequence of crafters not using trade, trade itself will be way less populated with items, because how crafters normally work is they buy bases, they then try to make really good items. In that process they also create a bunch of subpar items, which they then sell again on the market for marginal profits, serving basically an entire middle class of ARPG players. None of that will happen here. Also, crafters will not buy base materials because you can't sell them and because they won't need them. Is trade then suitable for those playing quite a bit, doing the occasional trade? Yes, likely, but those people will also look at SSF and probably realize they'd be dumb to play trade. And then you have the casual players, who seem to be the target audience for trade because they will be able to buy that unique for their build and maybe 1 or 2 other items, play the game for a bit and be done with it. I think that's a problem. I think not catering towards a more invested trading audience basically kills trade. By not having too many people play it, by not having many items on there, by it simply not working out. Trade systems are fragile systems, which you shouldn't tamper with too much. And imposing all these restrictions may have far-reaching consequences in terms of item availability, effectively killing the game mode. And on top of this, during League Start, the main gold sink is inventory space, begging the question how many people will be trading to begin with. I think it's way too restrictive to be viable when compared against the SSF mode, and definitely when compared against other ARPGs, in particular their main competitors, which I consider to be Torchlight Infinite and PoE. and that shouldn't be forgotten. I'm not saying 11th hour games should have copied the trade system of Path of Exile, but they will get a lot of players from those games expecting trade to work like in PoE or Torchlight Infinite, and those players will be in for a nasty surprise. Which I'm not saying here as criticism on EHG per se, but it's more of a consequence of their game design, and it might backfire pretty hard. Diving a bit deeper into trade systems of other ARPGs, part of the reason why they work so well is because there are basically no limitations to them. And sure, that does come with downsides, like inflation and item flippers, but also with a ton of advantages, like the fallout of crafters turning into items for the vast majority of players, or crafters in general, or just trading what and whenever you want, even at league start, setting yourself up for the rest of the league. You can't really do that in Last Epoch with all these ranks and restrictions. In general, trade always has one native limitation, which is your own currency. Other games deem that enough limitation. Last Epoch does not, and it will be very interesting what happens to a trade economy if you artificially impact it with more limitations. In the real world, it's typically not a great idea. In a game economy, we'll see if Last Epoch made a genius move here, or if they're about to figure out what other ARPG game devs may have known for a while now. I'm genuinely curious. Then we move to the other faction, the Circle of Fortune, or SSF. I mean, it can't be more obvious what the devs want you to play, right? Just look at these ranks. 35% more items, 25% chance to duplicate idols, 50% more chance of exalted affixes, 35% chance for double monolith rewards, 100% increased chance for uniques to have legendary potential, 100% increased chance for a tier 7 affix, turning rares into exalted items 25% of the time, and finally duplicating items from prophecies, which is a target farming strategy. Holy shit guys, and just to be clear, this is multiplicative. These are all different things stacking with each other, pretty much based on how they're defined over here and the FAQ under the post. The amount of loot you'll be getting in SSF is going to be completely bonkers. They looked at the Magic Find meta in PoE this league and thought we can do that too. And this is just the ranks. There's also a prophecy system, which is basically a straight up copy, even in name, from the prophecy system in Path of Exile. And that's not criticism, that's just me being very happy the devs don't shy away anymore from copying systems from other ARPGs that worked. And then there are lenses for even more target farming. I mean, why would anyone bother to play trade when you look at this list and when you look at my analysis of trade? And the less people play trade, the worse trade gets. In comparison, trade comes with so many restrictions and hurdles to take, it's not even close anymore. Which is what the devs want, right? They have time and time again expressed their concerns around trade, and it shows. So it's pretty consistent on that front. But I just can't imagine that this is what your average trade enjoyer wants. And I used to be an average trade enjoyer in PoE. I know what it's like, and I would not appreciate this. This post, and thus the item faction mode, is subject to change, but I feel the limitations for now are pretty much set. I would be surprised if they make another 180 on this system and allow the reselling of items, for example. Although I feel that would 100% be a good move to breathe some life into the trade league. So roughly, this is what 1.0 will launch with, although they may tweak some percentages here or there. Take that for what you will. So regarding my choice, it's probably no surprise, but I will play SSF. I would play SSF if there were no bonuses attached to it. I play SSF in PoE as well. I don't need buffs to a game mode like SSF. I think many other SSF players don't really need buffs either, because that is simply not the reason that you play solo self-found. But now that we get them, sure, I'll happily take all the love the devs sent my way. I feel a little bad for my trading buddies though, and hopefully you guys get something to enjoy as well, because in my view this just ain't it. Maybe a small note here for my regular viewers at the end of the video. I took a bit of a break at the end of last year, that just happens from time to time. I'm completely fine. Me not making content doesn't mean anything is wrong. This channel is purely a hobby, which is why you only see ads and never any sponsorships. I know, it's rare, a Last Epoch content creator that's not sponsored, but hopefully you can still appreciate my takes. I have a bad take from time to time, also on Last Epoch, but at least it's purely my own bad take, same for the good takes. It also means that if I don't really have much to say or just don't have much inspiration to create something, I typically spend more time on other creative hobbies like music, photography, or last month going ham on the Affliction League. I have no monetary incentive to make content. This channel basically breaks even on a good month. The Adobe Suite is very expensive actually, and I want to keep it that way. I think for me personally that keeps the content honest and close to my heart, something I value very much. Nevertheless, I appreciate the comments and concerns though, so hopefully you enjoyed this video. You're less concerned about me knowing I am in fact alive and doing well, and I'm sure fairly soon I'll make more content with Last Epoch release coming up. I'm on my own Discord daily though if you're interested, link should be in the description. Happy New Year everyone, best wishes, and I hope 2024 for you will be a good year. As always, thanks for watching, see you soon, love you all, bye bye.